Hey Flower Tribe, it's Kelly Lehman and Lucy Lehman, and today I want to answer the question, will I get hydrangea blooms this summer? So that is one of the most commonly asked questions that I get on Instagram and YouTube, and I want to walk you through the answer to that. So if we haven't met yet, it's nice to meet you. My name is Kelly Lehman. I'm the owner of Cranberry Fields Flower Farm here in Cranberry, New Jersey, and I love giving you guys fun, free flower tips. So please feel free to subscribe to this YouTube channel and hit that bell notification so you know whenever I post another fun, free flower tip video. So let's dive right in. So here it is, the beginning of June in my New Jersey garden. We're planting hardiness zone 6. And this is what some of my endless summer hydrangeas look like this year. Now, we had a heck of a winter here. It's 2023, and this past winter, we had super warm temps. I mean, temperatures were like doing crazy things. We were in like the 60s and the 70s, you know, like in the middle of winter. And then when spring came, we got like clobbered by a zap, and we had like freezing temperatures, and it was crazy. So this plant went through this whole fluctuation of craziness. So I want to show you what happened with this endless summer. Now, normally at this time of year, I would have like big giant blooms coming out on this plant. But this year they're a lot smaller because we did have that winter zap. And here's what happened. Last year, these blooms were starting to be put in place on the old wood that was there at the end of summer and August. All of this wood was still there in September, and these buds were put in place. And what happened was, when the winter zap came and hit us this spring, it wound up freezing off most of those buds, and that looks something like this. So once again, you had last year's old wood, and you had the new growth that was put in place, and then that spring cold just basically froze them off, and that's why I don't have a ton of blooms on this plant. So normally this plant is packed, and it's got gorgeous, giant, you know, tremendous flower heads, but this is what was left. These are the gals that survived, and, you know, they're not as big as they usually are, but I'm still grateful that I actually have them. So what I'm going to do this time of year, so it's like the end of spring, I'm going to come in here, first of all, and cut off a lot of these dead stems, especially the ones that have the holes in them, because this is where insects like to hang out. And I'm going to cut it at the base of the plant. I'm not going to get all the way down there right now, but eventually I'm going to get down there and just cut out all of these super dead stalks. But I want to show you what else is happening in this plant. I've got these stems that is new growth. So these guys are coming from the base of the plant, and they're going to give me a second flush of beautiful flowers towards the end of summer. So there's hope for this plant yet. I'm hoping to get some of those like towards like the end of July and August. And so that's going to be the second set of flowers that comes from this endless summer. Now, I do want to show you that I do have another batch of endless summer. They're at another place in my yard, and I don't have any of these blooms. And the reason why I don't have blooms over there is because these are protected by this wall in back of me. So these are in my backyard. This is actually my garage. So it's a really great idea to try to plant them in a place where they're protected, either by like a shed or a barn or some extra trees or some other, you know, like giant shrubs, because it will really help keep those plants, those little tiny blooms that are forming on that old wood. It'll protect them from the winter temperatures, it'll protect them from the wind, and it will give them a better chance of looking like this in spring instead of looking like this from getting beat up from all those cold temps. So that was a really, you know, good thing that happened here in this part of the yard. I want to show you what happened in the other part of my yard and why I think that those endless summers are not going to give me flowers this summer. So let's go take a walk over there and I'll show you what that looks like. So guys, this is what the endless summer hydrangeas look like that are in the front of my house. And as you can see, they're not really protected by much. They do have a little bit of a wall here, but a lot of times that wind comes blowing in off the farm fields from like this direction, and they're pretty much exposed out here. So they didn't have the benefit, you know, of being in that little kind of protected cove that I have around by my garage. So this is what they look like, and here's what happened with these plants. So all this beautiful green growth that you see here is all of that new growth. So this is all the stems that are coming from the base of the plant. And the old wood from last year, you can tell exactly what happened. All those buds got frozen off from that spring zap that we had. So I had to come in here and trim back all of that, you know, like the old wood, because this isn't going to help the plant. I'm just going to kind of cut them out because the plant doesn't need to support that. So these would have been beautiful, beautiful blooms right now, like you saw coming in on the other plants. But since it didn't have any kind of protection, they were frozen off. So that's what these guys look like. Now, my Limelight hydrangeas and my Annabelle hydrangeas did terrific because their blooms come in on all that new growth. So we're going to take a walk over there right now. So just to recap, this endless summer is going to give me beautiful blooms, but not until the end of summer, whereas the other one is going to give me 2 sets of blooms, one now and then one back in July. If you want a foolproof hydrangea, then go for the Limelight hydrangeas, the Annabelles, the Incredibles, and this is what happens to them, and I'll show you what they look like this time of year. So this is what the Annabelle hydrangea looks like right now. My Incredible hydrangea also look like this. These are smooth hydrangeas. They have those big white snowball-looking flowers towards like the beginning of summer, and all of these beautiful green stems came in on new growth. So it didn't matter that we had that wacky winter and we had that wacky, like spring freeze, because all of these stems just started coming up towards like the beginning of spring. So they weren't even awake yet to have to deal with all that winter and spring crazy temperature swings. So that's why a lot of times I say to people, if you're starting off in the hydrangea game, it's a good idea to try your smooth hydrangeas, and the same thing with your Limelight hydrangeas. And that's the hydrangea that you're going to see like way in the back over there. And I will kind of slide in a picture to show you exactly what that looks like when it is in bloom. This is what my Limelight hydrangea looks like right at the end of spring. And a lot of people have, written in and said, oh, I think there's something wrong with my Limelight hydrangea. They're not blooming yet. I don't have any blooms on them. This is what they're supposed to look like towards the end of spring. So all of these flowers were kind of put in place on new growth that came in this year, and it just takes them a little bit longer to bloom. So I usually get beautiful white creamy blooms from this Limelight hydrangea, but towards like midsummer. So I have great faith that this is going to be covered with beautiful blooms, but probably closer to like mid-July, towards the end of July. And then towards fall, those beautiful blooms are going to turn to like a gorgeous greenish shade, and they're going to have little specks of maroon on them. So Limelight hydrangea, Annabelle hydrangea, Incredible hydrangea, those hydrangeas in your gardens should bloom this year no matter what the temperature swings were like. And you're going to have to play it by ear with some of those mop heads that came in on that old wood. But if you had some varieties that have, like 2 sets of blooms, then you should be in luck, because those usually come in no matter what at the end of summer, and you might be lucky to get a couple of those blooms that might have survived from those temperature swings from the old wood. So thank you so much for joining me in this video, and please feel free to say hi to us over on my Cranberry Fields Instagram page, and also check out my podcast and our TikTok channel. And I also made really easy to follow online courses for you, so you know how to grow beautiful flowers just like these in your own backyard. And I will see you in the next video. Always a really good idea, because when the blooper, I think I just swallowed a fly. I want a foolproof blooper.